Part 1. The Unwritten Letter. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the newsroom floor, bathing the space in a warm, golden hue. Aria sat at her desk, a mess of papers and notepads surrounding her like an ocean of half-finished thoughts. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, typing with the precision of a concert pianist, each word resonating with the intensity of her ambition. A 24-year-old journalist with a fiery passion for truth, Aria was well known among her peers. Her articles were bold, unfiltered, and unapologetically honest, much like the woman herself. But as much as she loved her work, she couldn't deny that it consumed her, leaving little room for anything else. Still working on that piece, her colleague Mark called out as he walked past, raising an eyebrow at the sight of Aria hunched over her laptop. "Yeah, deadline's tomorrow," Aria replied, not looking up from the screen. "Don't you ever take a break? Go out, have some fun." Mark teased, though there was a hint of concern in his voice. "I'll rest when I'm done exposing corruption," she shot back with a wry smile. "Besides, I wouldn't know what to do with myself if I had free time." "Maybe you'd finally have time for a date," Mark quipped, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "Not interested," Aria replied curtly, her smile fading. She turned back to her screen, a subtle signal that the conversation was over. It wasn't that Aria was against the idea of love, she just hadn't found anyone worth compromising her goals for. To her, relationships seemed like a distraction, a detour from the path she'd set for herself. And so, she'd made peace with the fact that her love story, if it ever happened, would have to wait until she had accomplished her career ambitions. But fate, as it often does, had other plans for her. A mysterious delivery. It started with a simple envelope. No stamp, no address, just her name, Aria, written in an elegant script on the front. She found it on her desk one evening, long after most of her colleagues had left for the day. Curiosity piqued, Aria tore open the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper, covered in neat, cursive handwriting. "Dear Aria, your courage to speak out against injustice is inspiring. It's rare to find someone so unyielding in their pursuit of the truth, someone who doesn't let the world's cynicism dampen their spirit. You are like a lighthouse in a stormy sea, guiding those who've lost their way. Please don't ever change. Yours, a well-wisher." Aria blinked, reading and rereading the letter. There was no name, no hint as to who might have sent it. Was it a joke? A prank by one of her colleagues? Or worse, someone trying to manipulate her? She folded the letter carefully and placed it in her drawer. Whatever this was, she wasn't going to let it distract her. But over the next few weeks, more letters arrived. Each one praised her work, admired her tenacity, and, most unsettling of all, seemed to understand her on a deeply personal level. The writer spoke of her resilience, her strength, but also hinted at her vulnerabilities, the doubts and fears she hid behind her confident exterior. Aria told no one about the letters. Part of her felt flattered, even moved, by the thoughtful words. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that whoever was writing to her was watching her closely, perhaps too closely. The search begins one evening. As she sat alone in her apartment, Aria spread out the letters on her coffee table, examining them for clues. She noticed that each letter was written on the same type of paper, and the handwriting was consistent, elegant, yet firm, as if the writer was accustomed to putting their thoughts to paper. Aria leaned back on her couch, staring at the ceiling. Who could it be? A fan? A colleague? Or someone she'd never even met? "All right, Aria. Time to put those investigative skills to good use, she muttered to herself. The next day at the office, Aria discreetly compared the handwriting on the letters to her colleagues' scribbles on sticky notes, notebooks, and memos. She even went as far as asking Mark and a few others if they'd seen anyone near her desk late in the evening. But her efforts yielded nothing. Whoever this well-wisher was, they were careful. Weeks passed, and more letters arrived. Each one more personal, more poignant than the last. The writer spoke of the loneliness that came with being strong, the exhaustion of constantly fighting against the world's injustices. They wrote about the solace found in small moments, the smell of rain on a spring morning, the taste of coffee at dawn. Aria found herself looking forward to the letters, despite her initial wariness. It was as if the writer knew her better than anyone else, could see through her walls and touch the parts of her she kept hidden. And then, one day, the letters stopped. The unexpected twist: it had been over a week since the last letter, and Aria found herself feeling strangely bereft. She hadn't realized how much she'd come to rely on those letters until they were gone. It was like losing a friend, someone who understood her in a way no one else did. Waiting for something? Mark asked as he noticed Aria glancing at her desk for the 5th time that morning. Just wondering if I missed a delivery, she said, quickly looking away. But there was no delivery that day. Or the next. Or the one after that. Determined to get to the bottom of it, Aria decided to take matters into her own hands. She revisited every person she'd interviewed, every event she'd attended in the past few months, trying to recall if anyone had shown a particular interest in her. And that's when she remembered. A few months ago, she had interviewed Sam, a fellow journalist and a longtime friend. They'd known each other since college, and Sam had always been supportive of her work. But during their last meeting, he'd been unusually quiet, almost nervous. Could it be him? Confrontation and realization. Aria arranged to meet Sam at their favorite cafe, a cozy little place tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. As they sat across from each other, Aria studied his face, searching for any sign of guilt or recognition. "Sam, I need to ask you something," she began, her tone serious. "Sure, anything," he replied, looking puzzled. Have you been sending me letters? You know, the kind that talk about my work, about me?" she asked, holding her breath. Sam's eyes widened in surprise. "Letters? No, Aria, I haven't sent you any letters." "Why would you think that?" Never mind," Aria sighed, feeling a mix of relief and disappointment. "It's nothing." They spent the rest of the evening chatting about work and old times, but Aria's mind was elsewhere. If not Sam, then who? As they were leaving, Sam hesitated. "Aria, if someone is sending you letters, it's probably because they care about you. Just be careful, okay?" "Thanks, Sam." "I will," she replied, forcing a smile. That night, as Aria walked home through the quiet, moonlit streets, she couldn't help but feel like she was being watched. She glanced over her shoulder, but there was no one there. The revelation days turned into weeks, and the letters remained absent. Aria buried herself in her work, trying to forget about the mysterious writer. But just as she began to move on, a final letter arrived. "Dear Aria, I'm sorry for the silence. I needed to step back and reassess. Watching you from afar has made me realize something important. You are stronger, braver, and more capable than you give yourself credit for. I admired you not because of your work or your achievements, but because of who you are at your core. I've decided it's time to stop hiding. I'd like to meet you in person, if you're willing. Yours, Maya. Aria's heart skipped a beat. Maya. The name was unfamiliar, yet there was something hauntingly familiar about it. She couldn't put her finger on it, but deep down, she knew that this meeting would change everything. With trembling hands, she dialed the number provided in the letter. Part 2. A leap of faith. The phone rang twice before it was picked up. For a moment, there was only silence on the other end, a quiet tension that stretched out like the stillness before a storm. Then, a soft voice spoke, tentative and uncertain. Hello. Aria's heart pounded in her chest, a mixture of excitement, anxiety, and a flicker of fear. The voice sounded familiar, but she couldn't place it. She took a deep breath and forced herself to respond. This is Aria. I received your letter. There was a slight pause, then a gentle laugh, warm and almost musical. I didn't think you'd actually call. Well, I guess I'm more curious than cautious, Aria replied, trying to sound confident. So, you're Maya. Yes. I suppose this is where I'm supposed to say, it's nice to meet you, but we haven't really met yet, have we? Maya's voice was soft, almost soothing. Would you like to change that? Aria hesitated. Every instinct she had as a journalist screamed at her to ask more questions, to probe deeper, to unravel this mystery before stepping into it. But something about Maya's tone, the way she seemed to speak to the very core of who Aria was, made her push those instincts aside. Okay. Let's meet, Aria said, surprising herself with her own words. Maya's sigh of relief was audible through the phone. There's a cafe on Lexington Street called the Velvet Hour. Tomorrow evening at 7. 7 it is, Aria agreed, her mind racing. But, how will I know it's you? You'll know, Maya replied cryptically. I'll make sure of it. Before Aria could respond, the line went dead. She stared at her phone, a swirl of emotions clouding her thoughts. Who was this woman? Why did she go through such lengths to reach out to her? And why did she feel an inexplicable pull toward this meeting, like a moth drawn to a flame? Aria shook her head, trying to clear her mind. She needed to prepare herself, mentally and emotionally, for whatever awaited her at the Velvet Hour. The meeting the next evening, Aria found herself standing outside the Velvet Hour, a quaint little cafe with dark wood panels and soft, golden light spilling out onto the street. The place was almost empty, save for a few scattered patrons and the barista behind the counter. Taking a deep breath, Aria pushed open the door and stepped inside. The scent of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods wrapped around her like a comforting embrace, calming her frayed nerves. She glanced around, searching for any sign of her mysterious admirer. And then she saw her. Sitting in a corner booth, partially hidden behind a large fern, was a woman with short, raven black hair and a serene smile. She looked up as Aria approached, her eyes, a startling shade of green, lighting up with recognition. Aria. Maya's voice was even softer in person, a gentle lilt that seemed to melt away the tension in the air. Yes, Aria replied, her gaze locked on the woman before her. Maya was beautiful in an understated way, with a presence that felt both powerful and delicate at the same time. But more than her appearance, it was the intensity in her eyes that captivated Aria, the way she looked at her, as if seeing straight into her soul. Please, have a seat, Maya gestured to the empty chair across from her. I'm so glad you came. Aria sat down slowly, still trying to process the situation. I have to admit, this is unexpected. I thought you'd be someone I knew. A colleague, a friend, not a stranger. Maya nodded, her gaze never wavering. I'm not surprised. I was careful not to leave any clues. But I'm not a stranger, Aria, not really. I've followed your work for a long time. And I'm here now because, well, I couldn't stay silent any longer. Aria raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued. Why? What made you decide to reach out to me? Because I admire you, Maya said simply. Not just your writing, but your spirit. The way you stand up for what you believe in, the way you fight for the truth, it's inspiring. You're not afraid to be yourself, even when it's difficult, even when the world pushes back. Aria swallowed hard, her throat suddenly dry. She'd received praise before, compliments from readers, colleagues, even her boss. But this was different. There was a sincerity in Maya's words, a genuine admiration that felt raw and real. But why all the secrecy? Why not just approach me like a normal person? Aria asked, her voice trembling slightly. Because I was scared, Maya admitted, her gaze dropping to her hands. I know it's hard to believe, but I wasn't sure how you'd react. I didn't want to risk being dismissed or rejected outright. So I chose to reach out in a way that allowed me to express myself fully, without fear of judgment. Aria nodded slowly, her mind whirling. It made sense, in a way. She could understand the fear of rejection, the hesitation to be vulnerable. After all, hadn't she done the same thing for years? Hid behind her work, her ambition, refusing to let anyone close enough to see her flaws. So, what now? Aria asked, leaning back in her chair. What are you hoping will happen? Maya looked up, her eyes shining with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know. To see me, to understand where I'm coming from. And maybe, if you're open to it, we could be friends. Or something more, if that's what you want. Aria's heart skipped a beat. Something more. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. She barely knew this woman, this stranger who seemed to know her better than anyone else. And yet, there was a part of her that was intrigued, drawn to the possibility of something new, something unexpected. I don't know what I want, Aria admitted, her voice barely a whisper. This is all so sudden. But I'm willing to try. To get to know you. To see where this goes. Maya's smile was radiant, lighting up her entire face. That's all I'm asking for, Aria. A chance. They spent the rest of the evening talking, really talking. Maya shared stories about her own life, her struggles and triumphs, her passion for art and literature. And as Aria listened, she found herself opening up in ways she hadn't expected, sharing pieces of herself she usually kept hidden. They laughed, they debated, they connected on a level that felt almost surreal. By the time they left the cafe, it was well past midnight, and the city streets were quiet and still. Standing outside the Velvet Hour, Maya turned to Aria, her expression serious. Thank you for tonight, she said softly. I know this was a lot to take in. I hope you don't regret it. Aria shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. I don't. I'm glad I came. And I'm curious to see what happens next. Maya's smile widened, a hint of mischief in her eyes. Then I guess this is just the beginning. Aria watched as Maya walked away, her heart still racing. She didn't know where this path would lead, but for the first time in a long while, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. And maybe, just maybe, a glimmer of something more. Part 3. A new beginning. Over the next few weeks, Aria's life took on a rhythm she had never experienced before. It was as if Maya's presence had unlocked a door to a part of herself that had been shut away for years. They began meeting regularly, sometimes for coffee, sometimes for lunch, and occasionally for long walks along the quiet riverbank. Their conversations ranged from light-hearted banter to deep discussions about life, love, and everything in between. Maya had a way of drawing Aria out, making her laugh, and challenging her to see the world through a different lens. And in return, Aria found herself opening up in ways she never had before. It wasn't long before their friendship took on a deeper, more intimate nature. There were lingering glances, touches that seemed to spark with electricity, and moments of silence that spoke volumes. Yet, despite the growing intensity of their connection, Maya remained respectful of Aria's boundaries, never pushing her to define what they were or where they were heading. One evening, after a particularly long day at the office, Aria found herself sitting in Maya's cozy apartment, sipping a glass of wine as they watched the city lights twinkle through the large bay window. "This place is beautiful," Aria murmured, glancing around at the soft, ambient lighting, the carefully curated art pieces on the walls, and the collection of books that lined the shelves. "It suits you." Maya smiled, her eyes lingering on Aria's face. "Thank you. I've always believed that a home should be a reflection of who you are, a sanctuary where you can be yourself." Aria nodded thoughtfully. "I never really thought of it that way. My apartment is more like a storage unit. It's just a place to sleep and work." "That's because you pour everything into your career," Maya observed gently. "You give so much of yourself to your work that there's little left for anything else." Aria felt a pang of defensiveness rise within her, but she quickly pushed it down. Maya wasn't criticizing her, she was simply stating a fact. And Aria knew, deep down, that she was right. "I guess I'm afraid that if I stop, even for a moment, I'll lose my edge," Aria admitted quietly. "I've worked so hard to get where I am, and sometimes I wonder if I'm just running on adrenaline. If I slow down, I'm scared everything will fall apart." Maya reached out and took Aria's hand, her touch warm and reassuring. "You're not a machine, Aria. You're allowed to take a breath, to live outside of your work. You deserve happiness too." The sincerity in Maya's voice made Aria's throat tighten with emotion. She looked down at their intertwined fingers, feeling a rush of affection, fear, and something else, something deeper, surge through her. "Sometimes I think I don't even know what happiness looks like anymore," Aria whispered, her voice barely audible. "It's been so long since I let myself want anything other than success." Maya's grip tightened, her eyes filled with compassion. "Then let me show you," she said softly. "Let me show you what it's like to live, to feel, to be more than just your work." Aria's heart pounded in her chest, 1,000 thoughts racing through her mind. Could she really do this? Could she let herself care for someone, let someone in, after all these years of keeping her heart under lock and key? But as she looked into Maya's eyes, she saw no judgment, no pressure, only an open invitation. An invitation to take a leap of faith and trust that maybe, just maybe, there was more to life than chasing deadlines and bylines. "I want to try," Aria said finally, her voice trembling with uncertainty and hope. "I don't know how, but I want to try." Maya's smile was radiant, a beautiful, genuine expression of joy that made Aria's chest ache. "That's all I need to hear." An unlikely pair, their relationship blossomed slowly, like a delicate flower pushing its way through cracks in the concrete. They went on dates, simple, unassuming outings that made Aria feel like she was rediscovering the world. They visited art galleries, attended poetry readings, and even tried their hand at pottery, hilariously disastrous endeavor that ended with both of them covered in clay and laughing uncontrollably. Maya introduced Aria to new experiences, gently coaxing her out of her comfort zone, while Aria found herself sharing parts of her life she had long kept hidden. She told Maya about her childhood, her strained relationship with her parents, and her fear of never being enough, of always needing to prove herself. In return, Maya shared her own story. She talked about growing up in a conservative family that had disapproved of her dreams of becoming an artist. She revealed her struggles with self-acceptance, her battles with anxiety and self-doubt, and how she had finally found the courage to break free and pursue her passion. It wasn't a perfect relationship. They had their disagreements, their misunderstandings. There were moments when Aria's workaholic tendencies clashed with Maya's need for emotional intimacy, and times when Maya's free-spirited nature made Aria feel unmoored. But despite their differences, they found a way to navigate their challenges together, growing stronger with each passing day. As the weeks turned into months, Aria began to notice subtle changes within herself. She smiled more, laughed more easily. She found herself looking forward to evenings spent in Maya's company, to lazy Sunday mornings curled up in bed with a book, to the simple pleasure of holding hands as they walked through the park. She was still passionate about her work, still driven and ambitious. But now, there was a new dimension to her life, a sense of balance, of fulfillment, that she had never known before. Facing reality, but as their relationship deepened, so did the scrutiny. Word of Aria's mysterious new lover spread through the newsroom like wildfire. Whispers and speculations followed her everywhere she went, and she could feel the weight of curious, judgmental stares every time she walked through the office. Mark, who had always been a good-natured colleague, seemed particularly taken aback by the revelation. One day, he cornered Aria by the coffee machine, his expression a mixture of disbelief and concern. "Is it true?" he asked bluntly. "You're dating some woman no one's ever heard of?" Aria bristled at his tone, crossing her arms defensively. "Why does it matter? My personal life is none of your business." "I'm not trying to pry," Mark said quickly, holding up his hands. I didn't expect this from you. You've always been so focused on your career. And now, suddenly, you're all over the place, taking days off, leaving early. People are starting to talk." "Let them talk," Aria snapped, anger flaring in her chest. "I'm not doing anything wrong. But is she worth it?" Mark pressed, his eyes searching her face. "Is this Maya worth risking everything you've worked so hard for?" Aria opened her mouth to respond, but the words caught in her throat. Was she? Was Maya worth the whispers, the doubts, the potential fallout? She thought about the way Maya looked at her, like she was the most precious thing in the world. She thought about the way Maya made her feel, alive, seen, and cherished in a way she had never been before. And then she knew, with absolute certainty, what her answer was. Yes, Aria said firmly, meeting Mark's gaze head-on. She is. Mark sighed, running a hand through his hair. I just don't want to see you get hurt, Aria. You're one of the best journalists here. I'd hate for you to lose that because of some distraction. She's not a distraction, Aria corrected, her voice steady. She's a part of my life. And if that means people talk or think less of me, then so be it. I'm not going to hide who I am or who I care about. Mark studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right. Just be careful, okay? I will, Aria promised, her resolve hardening. But I'm not backing down. That night, as Aria sat in Maya's apartment, she told her everything that had happened at work. She expected Maya to be upset, to worry that their relationship was causing trouble. But instead, Maya simply took her hand and squeezed it gently. You stood up for us, she said softly, pride and affection shining in her eyes. I knew you would. I'm not afraid, Aria whispered, realizing as she spoke the words that they were true. I'm not afraid of what people think. I'm not afraid of losing whatever I thought I needed to protect. Maya smiled, leaning in to brush her lips against Aria's cheek. Because you found something worth holding on to. Yes, Aria agreed, a sense of peace settling over her. I have. And in that moment, she knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Part 4. Cracks in the foundation. As winter set in, bringing with it a chill that seeped through the city's bones, the intensity of Aria's relationship with Maya only deepened. They spent more and more time together, sharing their dreams, their fears, and their desires. But with each step forward, Aria felt the tension between her personal and professional lives tightening like a noose around her neck. It wasn't just Mark who had noticed the change in her. Aria's editor, Lisa, a no-nonsense woman with a sharp eye for detail, had pulled her aside one afternoon to express concern over the softness creeping into her recent articles. Aria had defended herself vehemently, insisting that her work was as hard-hitting as ever, but she couldn't deny the nagging doubt in the back of her mind. Was she losing her edge? Was Maya becoming a distraction, just as Mark had suggested? One evening, after another grueling day at the office, Aria found herself standing in front of Maya's door, her shoulders heavy with fatigue and frustration. She raised her hand to knock, hesitating for just a moment before letting it fall. The door swung open before she could decide, and there was Maya, her smile brightening the dimly lit hallway. But the moment she saw Aria's face, her expression shifted to one of concern. Aria. What's wrong? She asked softly, stepping aside to let her in. Aria sighed and walked inside, dropping her bag on the couch and running a hand through her hair. I don't know, Maya. I feel off. Everything feels off. Maya closed the door quietly and moved to stand in front of her, her hands gently resting on Aria's shoulders. Talk to me. What's going on? It's work, Aria muttered, staring down at her feet. I don't know, I feel like I'm not good enough anymore. Like I'm slipping. My editor thinks I'm getting soft, and Mark is acting like I'm throwing away my career for a relationship. Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm losing focus. Maya's grip tightened, her eyes flashing with something fierce. You're not losing focus, Aria. You're just changing. Evolving. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what if they're right? Aria whispered, her voice cracking. What if I'm not the same person I used to be? What if being with you is making me weaker? Maya flinched as if struck, her face paling. She took a step back, wrapping her arms around herself as if trying to shield herself from the words. Is that what you think? She asked, her voice trembling. Aria's heart sank as she realized what she had said. Maya, I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? Maya interrupted, her tone tight with barely restrained hurt. You think I'm holding you back, that I'm making you less? No, that's not. Aria paused, struggling to find the right words. I feel torn. I'm trying to balance everything, but it's like I'm failing at both. And I don't know how to fix it. Maya's gaze softened, and she took a deep breath, clearly trying to keep her emotions in check. Aria, I would never want to be the reason you feel like you're losing yourself. If being with me is too much, if it's affecting your career, then maybe we should take a step back. No. The word burst out of Aria before she could stop it, her hands reaching out to grab Maya's. I don't want that. I don't want to lose you. Maya's eyes searched Aria's face, her expression a mix of sadness and understanding. But you don't want to lose yourself either, do you? Aria's throat tightened, tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. I don't know what I want. I just know that I can't do this without you. Maya's face softened, and she stepped closer, pulling Aria into a gentle embrace. You're not alone, Aria. I'm here. And I'll always be here, no matter what happens. Aria buried her face in Maya's shoulder, the familiar scent of vanilla and jasmine wrapping around her like a comforting blanket. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice muffled. I'm so sorry. Sure, it's okay, Maya murmured, stroking her hair gently. We'll figure this out. Together. And for a moment, standing there in the circle of Maya's arms, Aria believed her. A fork in the road. The weeks that followed were a blur of conflicting emotions and unresolved tension. Aria threw herself back into her work with renewed vigor, determined to prove to everyone, including herself, that she hadn't lost her edge. She took on more assignments, stayed at the office late into the night, and pushed herself to the brink of exhaustion. But the harder she tried to reclaim her former self, the more distant and strained her relationship with Maya became. They still saw each other, still talked and laughed, but there was an unspoken distance between them, a chasm that neither seemed able to bridge. It all came to a head one cold, rainy evening when Maya showed up at Aria's office, drenched and shivering, but with a determined look in her eyes. Aria, we need to talk, she said, her voice cutting through the hum of the newsroom. Aria looked up from her desk, startled. Maya, what are you doing here? It's late. I don't care, Maya interrupted, her eyes flashing with frustration. You've been avoiding me for weeks, throwing yourself into work like it's the only thing that matters. We need to talk. Now. Several of Aria's colleagues glanced over curiously, and she felt a flush of embarrassment creep up her neck. Can we not do this here? She hissed, rising to her feet. Fine, Maya snapped, turning on her heel and marching toward the stairwell. Aria followed her reluctantly, her heart pounding with a mixture of anger and fear. They found themselves on the empty rooftop, the rain falling in heavy sheets around them. Maya stood with her arms crossed, her hair plastered to her face, but she didn't seem to notice. "What is going on with you, Aria?" Maya demanded, her voice trembling. "You keep pushing me away, burying yourself in work, pretending everything is fine when it's clearly not." "I'm just trying to do my job." Aria shot back, frustration bubbling over. "I'm trying to prove that I haven't lost my touch, that I'm still the best at what I do." "By shutting me out?" Maya challenged, stepping closer. "By shutting yourself down." "I don't have a choice." Aria shouted, her voice echoing across the rooftop. "Don't you see? I have to do this. I have to be the best. If I don't, then everything I've worked for will be meaningless." Maya shook her head, tears mingling with the rain on her cheeks. "No, Aria. You're the one making it meaningless. You're the one choosing to let it consume you, to let it define you. Because it's all I have." Aria screamed, the words ripping out of her like a confession. "It's all I've ever had. My work, my career, it's the only thing that's ever been constant, the only thing I've ever been good at." The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the sound of the rain pouring down around them. Maya stared at her, her expression one of heartbreak and resolve. "No, Aria," she said softly. "That's not true. You have so much more to offer, so much more to give. You're more than just your work. But if you can't see that, if you can't see that being with me, being happy, doesn't make you less, then maybe you need to figure out what you really want." "Maya, please," Aria's voice broke, a sob catching in her throat. Maya took a deep breath, her gaze never leaving Aria's face. "I love you, Aria. But I can't keep watching you tear yourself apart like this. I can't keep being the thing that you blame for your unhappiness." Before Aria could respond, Maya turned and walked away, her figure disappearing into the rain. Aria stood there, drenched and shivering, her heart breaking as she watched the only person who had ever made her feel whole walk out of her life. And for the first time, she didn't know how to fix it. Part 5. Shattered pieces. The days that followed were a blur of emptiness for Aria. She threw herself into her work with a vengeance, determined to drown out the pain, the loss, the gaping hole that Maya had left in her life. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't shake the image of Maya's tear-streaked face, the sound of her voice breaking as she walked away. The newsroom became her sanctuary and her prison. She arrived before dawn and left long after everyone else had gone home. She churned out articles with ruthless efficiency, each one sharper and more biting than the last, but there was no satisfaction in it. No sense of accomplishment. Her colleagues began to keep their distance, whispering behind her back, their concerned glances following her like shadows. Even Mark, who had been so vocal about her relationship with Maya, seemed at a loss for words. "You need to take a break," he said one evening, leaning against the edge of her desk as she pounded away at her keyboard. "I'm fine," Aria muttered, not bothering to look up. "No, you're not," Mark insisted, his voice gentle but firm. "You're killing yourself, Aria. Whatever happened with Maya, you can't just pretend it didn't affect you." Aria's fingers froze over the keys, a wave of anger surging through her. "I said, I'm fine," she repeated, her voice icy. "Aria, I don't need your pity, Mark," she snapped, her gaze blazing as she finally looked up. "I don't need anyone's pity. I'm doing my job, just like I've always done. So leave me alone." Mark stared at her for a long moment, his expression a mix of frustration and sadness. Then, without another word, he turned and walked away, leaving Aria alone in the dimly lit office. She let out a shaky breath, her hands trembling as she ran them through her hair. What was wrong with her? Why couldn't she just get it together? Because you're broken, a voice whispered in the back of her mind. Because you pushed away the only person who made you feel whole. Aria clenched her fists, a sob rising in her throat. She had thought that throwing herself into work would numb the pain, but it hadn't. It was still there, a raw, aching wound that refused to heal. She had lost Maya. And no amount of articles, deadlines, or accolades could fill the emptiness that Maya had left behind. The void. A month passed. Then another. And slowly, painfully, Aria began to accept that Maya was gone. The letters stopped coming. There were no more texts, no more phone calls, no more chance meetings at their favorite cafe. It was as if Maya had vanished from her life entirely, leaving nothing but memories and regrets in her wake. Aria went through the motions of her daily routine, but everything felt hollow. Her work, which had once been her greatest passion, now felt like a chore. She sat through meetings and interviews, nodded in all the right places, but there was a part of her that had shut down completely. The fire that had once fueled her was gone, replaced by a cold, empty numbness. She was no longer the fierce, driven journalist she had once been. She was just tired. And the worst part was, she didn't know how to fix it. She didn't know how to make herself whole again. It was late one evening, as she sat alone in her darkened apartment, that she found herself staring at her reflection in the window. The woman who looked back at her was a stranger, pale, gaunt, with dark circles under her eyes and a lifeless expression. "Who are you?" Aria thought, a wave of despair washing over her. "What have you become?" Without thinking, she grabbed her phone and scrolled through her contacts until she found Maya's name. Her thumb hovered over the screen, her heart pounding. "Don't," a voice whispered. "It's too late. She's moved on. You need to let go." But another part of her, the part that still remembered Maya's smile, her laugh, her warmth, refused to listen. Before she could talk herself out of it, Aria hit the call button. A voice from the past. The phone rang once. Twice. 3 times. And then, just as Aria's heart began to sink with the certainty that Maya wouldn't answer, there was a soft click. "Hello." Maya's voice, gentle and familiar, sent a jolt of electricity through Aria's entire being. She swallowed hard, struggling to find her voice. Maya, it's me," she whispered, her throat tight. There was a pause, and then Maya sighed softly. "Aria, why are you calling?" The words were calm, but there was an undercurrent of something, pain, maybe, lurking beneath the surface. "I don't know," Aria admitted, tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. I needed to hear your voice." Another silence, longer this time. Aria closed her eyes, pressing the phone to her ear as if it could somehow bring her closer to Maya. "Are you okay?" Maya asked finally, her tone wary but still laced with concern. "No," Aria whispered, a sob escaping her lips. "No, I'm not okay. I haven't been okay since you left." "Aria, please, just, let me say this," Aria interrupted, her voice trembling. "I messed up, Maya. I let my fear and my insecurities get in the way, and I pushed you away. I let my career, my stupid pride, come between us. And now I'm paying the price for it. Maya was silent, listening. I thought I could just bury myself in work and pretend like it didn't matter, Aria continued, her words tumbling out in a desperate rush. But I was wrong. Nothing makes sense without you. I miss you, Maya. I miss you so much it hurts. There was a soft intake of breath on the other end, and for a moment, Aria dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, Maya would forgive her. I miss you too, Aria, Maya said quietly. But things can't go back to the way they were. You need to find your own way, your own happiness. You can't rely on someone else to fix you. Aria's heart sank, her hope crumbling like ash in the wind. So, this is it. There's no chance for us. I don't know, Maya murmured, her voice filled with sadness. I need time. And I think you do too. Time to figure out who you are, what you want. Without me. The words were like a knife to Aria's chest, sharp and cutting. She blinked back tears, her throat tight. Okay, she whispered, her voice breaking. Okay, I understand. Take care of yourself, Aria, Maya said softly. Goodbye. The line went dead, and Aria stared at the phone in her hand, numb and disbelieving. Goodbye. It was over. Truly over. With a choked sob, Aria sank to the floor, the phone slipping from her grasp as she buried her face in her hands. The tears came in a flood, years of pent-up pain, anger, and grief pouring out of her in an unrelenting torrent. She cried until there was nothing left, until she was empty, hollow, and utterly exhausted. And as she sat there, broken and alone, she knew one thing for certain. She couldn't go on like this. Something had to change. The road to healing the next morning, Aria woke up with a pounding headache and swollen eyes, but there was a strange sense of clarity that hadn't been there before. Maya was right. She couldn't rely on anyone else to fix her. She had to do it herself. With a shaky breath, she picked up her phone and dialed another number. The call went through almost immediately. Hello, Mom. It's Aria, she said, her voice tentative but steady. I need to talk. Can we meet? There was a moment of stunned silence, and then her mother's voice, filled with equal parts shock and hope, crackled through the line. Of course, sweetheart. Anytime. I'll be there. Aria nodded, a flicker of something like hope sparking in her chest. It was time to face her past, to confront the pain and resentment she'd buried for so long. It was time to heal. And maybe, just maybe, she could find her way back to herself. Part 6. Confronting the past. The sun shone brightly as Aria walked to the cafe where she had agreed to meet her mother. The warmth felt foreign on her skin after weeks of cold, rainy weather, but it also filled her with a renewed sense of purpose. Today was about facing her fears, unearthing old wounds, and beginning the journey to healing. As she stepped inside the cozy cafe, the familiar aroma of roasted coffee beans and baked pastries enveloped her. She spotted her mother at a small table by the window, her face lighting up with a mixture of surprise and joy as Aria approached. Aria! It's so good to see you, her mother exclaimed, standing up to embrace her. Aria felt her mother's warmth seep into her bones, reminder of the comfort and love she had longed for during the past few months. "Hi, Mom," Aria replied, pulling back to study her mother's face. "You look well." "I'm trying," her mother said with a small smile as they settled into their seats. "I've missed you. How have you been?" Aria hesitated, her throat tightening as she contemplated the truth. "Not great, to be honest. I've been struggling." Her mother nodded, concern etched on her features. "I figured as much. You've been distant for a while now. I was worried something was wrong." "I pushed away someone I care about," Aria admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "And now I feel lost." Her mother reached across the table, placing her hand over Aria's. "What happened, sweetheart?" Taking a deep breath, Aria began to unravel her story, recounting her relationship with Maya, the letters, and the emotional turmoil that had followed. She spoke of the joy she had felt with Maya, the sense of freedom and understanding, and then the heartbreak of their fallout. It was liberating to share her experiences, to lay bare the tangled mess of her heart. "I was so focused on my career that I didn't let myself feel," Aria continued, her voice trembling with emotion. "And now that I realize what I've lost, it feels unbearable." Her mother listened intently, nodding as Aria poured out her heart. "I wish I could have been there for you," she said softly. "I know I wasn't the best at expressing my feelings, but I always wanted to support you." "I know, Mom," Aria said, tears welling in her eyes. "But you didn't really understand me. I felt like I had to be perfect, like I had to achieve everything just to earn your love." Her mother's expression turned serious, guilt washing over her. "I never wanted to make you feel that way. I was just trying to protect you, to prepare you for a tough world. I thought if I pushed you to be strong, you'd be successful. I never realized it was hurting you." Aria's heart ached as she watched her mother grapple with her own regrets. "I know you meant well," she said, her voice gentle. "But I need you to understand that it's okay to feel. It's okay to be vulnerable. I've spent so much time hiding behind my career because I thought that's what I was supposed to do." Her mother nodded slowly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I see that now, Aria. I see it clearly. You're not just a journalist. You're a daughter, a friend, a lover. You deserve to be happy in all aspects of your life, not just your work." The weight of those words settled over Aria like a warm blanket. "I want to find that happiness," she confessed, her voice trembling. "I want to be true to myself. But I don't know how to do that without Maya." "Have you thought about reaching out to her?" her mother asked softly. "I tried," Aria admitted, her throat tightening again. "But it didn't go well. I think she needs space." "Maybe she does, but you also need to be honest with yourself," her mother urged. "If you truly love her, then you need to fight for that love. Don't let fear dictate your actions." Aria considered her mother's words, the truth of them sinking in. "You're right. I've been so scared of losing everything that I forgot what it feels like to fight for something I want. I want to be brave. I want to take that leap of faith again." "Then do it," her mother encouraged, her grip tightening around Aria's hand. "Reach out to her. Open your heart. You never know what might happen unless you try." As they talked, Aria felt a sense of relief wash over her. The conversation was a balm to her soul, soothing the wounds she had carried for far too long. She had opened the door to healing, and now it was time to take the next step. Taking a step forward after their meeting, Aria felt invigorated. She spent the next few days reflecting on her relationship with Maya and what it truly meant to her. Memories of their laughter, their shared dreams, and the love that had blossomed between them flooded her mind. One evening, as she sat at her desk, staring at the empty screen, she picked up her pen and began to write a letter, this time, not a letter filled with praise or admiration, but a letter that laid bare her heart. Dear Maya, I hope this letter finds you well. I know it's been a while since we last spoke, and I've had time to reflect on everything that happened between us. I want to start by saying I'm sorry. I'm sorry for pushing you away, for letting my fear get the best of me, and for not being brave enough to stand up for what I wanted. I've spent too long hiding behind my work, convinced that I needed to be perfect to be worthy of love. But the truth is, I'm flawed and vulnerable. I miss you more than I can express, and I realize now that I don't want to live without you in my life. I'm ready to take a leap of faith. I want to talk, to understand where we went wrong, and to see if we can find a way back to each other. I understand if you need more time or if you've moved on, but I hope you'll give me a chance to make things right. Yours, Aria. Aria folded the letter carefully and slipped it into an envelope, her heart racing with uncertainty. What if Maya didn't want to hear from her? What if this only made things worse? But she pushed those thoughts aside. She had to try. She had to reach out, even if it meant facing her fears head-on. The next morning, Aria found herself standing in front of a postbox, her hands trembling as she slid the letter inside. The sound of the flap closing echoed in her ears, and she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She had done it. She had taken the first step toward healing. Hope on the horizon. Days turned into weeks, and as Aria continued to navigate the challenges of her work and personal life, she felt a newfound sense of determination. She immersed herself in her assignments, seeking stories that challenged her and pushed her boundaries. She felt her passion reignite, the fire inside her rekindling with each new article she wrote. And then, one afternoon, just as she was about to leave the office, her phone buzzed with an incoming message. Her heart raced as she picked it up, hoping against hope. It was a text from Maya. Hey Aria. I got your letter. Aria's breath caught in her throat, her heart pounding with anticipation. She quickly typed a response, her fingers trembling. Can we talk? She sent. A moment later, Maya replied. Yes. Let's meet at the Velvet Hour tomorrow at 7. Aria's heart soared as she read the message. I'll be there. A new conversation. The next evening, Aria arrived at the Velvet Hour, her heart racing with a mix of excitement and anxiety. The cafe had changed since the last time she was there, new art on the walls, fresh flowers on the tables, but it still held the same comforting atmosphere that she had come to love. When she saw Maya sitting at their usual table, her breath caught in her throat. Maya looked beautiful, her hair cascading around her shoulders, her green eyes shimmering with an unreadable expression. Hey, Maya greeted softly, her voice warm yet cautious. Hey, Aria replied, taking a seat across from her. The air between them crackled with tension, both familiar and new. I got your letter, Maya began, her gaze steady as she looked at Aria. And I've thought a lot about what you said. I meant every word, Aria said, her heart pounding in her chest. I'm sorry for how I treated you. I've been so caught up in my own fears that I didn't realize I was pushing you away. Maya nodded slowly, her expression softening. It hurt, Aria. It hurt to see you lose yourself in your work and to feel like you didn't want me around. I didn't mean to make you feel that way, Aria said earnestly. I was scared. Scared of being vulnerable, of letting you in, of ruining everything we had. But I realize now that I don't want to live without you. Maya took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with emotion. I've missed you too. I've missed us. But it's going to take time for me to trust that things can be different this time. I understand, Aria said quickly. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I want to prove to you that I can be better, that I can be the partner you deserve. Maya smiled softly, the warmth returning to her eyes. I appreciate that, Aria. And I want to give us another chance. But I need to see that you're truly committed to finding balance in your life, work and love. Aria nodded, determination filling her. I promise I will. I've been working on that already. I'm ready to take a step back and make room for you in my life. Good, Maya replied, her smile widening. Then let's take it one day at a time. We can figure this out together. As they talked, the tension began to dissipate, replaced by the warmth of understanding and connection. They shared stories, laughter, and dreams for the future, and for the first time in months, Aria felt like she was finally coming home. Part 7, Building a Future. As winter melted into spring, Aria and Maya took their time rebuilding their relationship, brick by brick. They spent long evenings talking, learning to communicate openly about their fears and desires. Every conversation deepened their bond, filling the cracks that had formed between them. Aria was determined to strike a balance between her work and her personal life. She started to prioritize her well-being, incorporating yoga and meditation into her routine, and even took a few days off from work to recharge her mind and spirit. The world of journalism was still demanding, but with Maya by her side, it felt manageable. One Saturday afternoon, they found themselves wandering through an art fair in the heart of the city. The air buzzed with excitement, vibrant colors from the paintings and sculptures swirling around them like confetti. Aria watched Maya's eyes light up at each display, her enthusiasm infectious. Look at that one! Maya exclaimed, pointing to a large canvas filled with swirling blues and greens. It reminds me of the ocean. It's beautiful, Aria agreed, watching as Maya's fingers brushed against the canvas, her expression thoughtful. Art has a way of capturing emotions, doesn't it? Maya mused, turning to Aria. It can express what we sometimes can't put into words. Like love? Aria asked, a teasing smile on her lips. Exactly, Maya replied, her eyes sparkling. And like all the feelings we've been exploring together. As they moved through the fair, Aria couldn't help but feel a sense of joy bubbling inside her. With every shared laugh and tender glance, it became clearer that they were on a new path, one where both of them could thrive. But as they strolled, something unexpected happened. They came across a booth showcasing local artists, and Maya's attention was immediately drawn to a large canvas featuring a breathtaking depiction of the night sky, a swirling mass of stars and galaxies. Aria, look, she exclaimed, her voice filled with wonder. It's stunning. Aria stepped closer, captivated by the artwork. It really is. I love how it captures the vastness of the universe. Maya turned to Aria, her expression turning serious. You know, this reminds me of our conversations. How we both feel so small in the grand scheme of things, yet we still have our own light to shine. Aria nodded, her heart swelling. Exactly. We're just two people in a big, chaotic world trying to make our mark. Speaking of making a mark, Maya began, her gaze shifting back to the painting. What if I told you that I've been thinking about hosting my first art show? Aria's heart raced at the thought. Really? That's amazing, Maya. You should absolutely do it. I want to, Maya admitted, her voice filled with uncertainty. But I'm terrified. What if no one shows up? What if people don't like my work? Maya, you're incredibly talented, Aria said firmly. Your art deserves to be seen. And I'll be there to support you, no matter what. Maya smiled, a mix of gratitude and vulnerability in her expression. Thank you. I think I just need to take that leap of faith again, like we did with our relationship. Exactly. Aria exclaimed, feeling inspired. You're ready for this. Just like I'm ready to embrace my own journey in this relationship. We're both worth it. Maya's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, and she leaned in to kiss Aria gently. I can't wait to share this with you. The art show a few weeks later, Maya stood nervously in front of her artwork, which adorned the walls of a quaint gallery downtown. The room buzzed with chatter as guests mingled, glasses of wine in hand, admiring the pieces. Aria stood by her side, her heart racing with excitement for Maya. You're going to be amazing, Aria whispered, squeezing Maya's hand reassuringly. I hope so, Maya replied, her voice shaky. I can't believe this is happening. Believe it, Aria said with conviction. You've worked hard for this moment. As the guests began to gather around her, Maya took a deep breath and straightened her shoulders. Okay, here we go, she said, a determined look in her eyes. Remember, just be yourself, Aria encouraged. You've got this. Maya approached the crowd, her nervousness quickly dissipating as she began to speak about her art. She shared stories behind each piece, explaining the emotions and inspirations that fueled her creativity. Aria watched, filled with pride, as Maya's confidence blossomed in front of the audience. The evening unfolded beautifully. Guests were captivated by Maya's work, drawn to the raw emotion and passion that radiated from each piece. Laughter and conversation filled the room, and Aria felt a swell of joy as she witnessed Maya thriving. Later in the evening, as the crowd began to thin, Maya turned to Aria, her eyes bright with excitement. I can't believe it went so well. Thank you for encouraging me to do this. I knew you could do it, Aria said, her heart full. You were incredible up there. Maya smiled, her eyes glistening. I couldn't have done it without you. You're my inspiration, Aria. Their moment was interrupted as a small group of admirers approached, eager to compliment Maya on her work. As they chatted, Aria stood back, watching with a sense of pride and admiration. Maya was a force of nature, and Aria felt honored to be part of her journey. But as the night wore on, a sense of unease began to creep in. Though she was elated for Maya, Aria couldn't shake the feeling that she still had work to do on herself. She was grateful for the love they shared, but she knew that there were still challenges ahead, challenges that would require both of them to grow. Late-night conversations. That night, after the art show had wrapped up and the last guests had left, Aria and Maya returned to Maya's apartment, tired but elated. They curled up on the couch together, wrapped in a cozy blanket, both still buzzing from the excitement of the evening. "You did it, Maya." "You really did it," Aria said, her heart swelling with pride. Maya smiled, leaning her head against Aria's shoulder. "I couldn't have done it without your support. You were my rock tonight." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the weight of the evening settling around them. Then Maya turned to Aria, her expression serious. "Can I ask you something?" she said, her brow furrowing slightly. "Of course. What's on your mind? Do you ever worry about us? About our relationship?" Maya asked hesitantly. Aria's heart sank at the question. "Sometimes, yes. I think about how far we've come, but I also worry about what lies ahead. We've both changed, and I want to make sure we're growing together, not apart." Maya nodded, her gaze thoughtful. "I worry about that too. We're both on our own journeys, and I want to support you as you continue to find yourself, just like I'm finding my way." "I'm committed to us, Maya," Aria said firmly, meeting Maya's gaze. "I want to be here for you, just like you've been there for me. We can do this together, but we need to communicate openly." Maya smiled, relief washing over her. "I agree. It's important that we keep talking, even when it's uncomfortable. I don't want us to slip back into old habits." "Neither do I," Aria replied, her heart racing at the thought. "We've come too far for that." They spent the rest of the evening discussing their hopes, dreams, and fears. They spoke about their careers, their aspirations, and what they wanted from their relationship moving forward. It was a healing conversation, one that reminded Aria of the strength of their bond. As the clock ticked toward midnight, Aria leaned in, planting a soft kiss on Maya's lips. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered. "You're amazing." Maya smiled, her eyes sparkling with warmth. "And you, Aria, are my heart." Part 8. New Horizons. The following weeks felt like a breath of fresh air for Aria and Maya. With the successful art show behind them, both women found themselves more grounded in their relationship and more confident in their individual pursuits. Aria returned to her work with a renewed vigor, eager to tackle challenging stories that stretched her journalistic abilities. With every article she wrote, she felt more alive. She sought out complex narratives, exploring themes of identity, resilience, and the power of love. The words flowed easily from her fingers, each piece reflecting the journey she had undertaken, both in her career and in her heart. Maya, on the other hand, was busy planning her next art exhibition, spurred on by the success of her first show. She spent hours in her studio, experimenting with new techniques and materials, allowing her creativity to flourish. Aria often joined her, providing support and encouragement, and even trying her hand at painting, though her efforts were often met with laughter and good-natured teasing from Maya. One Friday evening, Aria arrived at Maya's apartment to find her surrounded by canvases and paint. The air was thick with the scent of turpentine and the sound of soft music floated from the speakers. "Hey! You're just in time," Maya exclaimed, her eyes shining. "I'm working on a new piece, and I'd love your input." Aria grinned, stepping closer to examine the canvas. It was a swirling mass of colors, blues, purples, and golds, coming together to create an abstract representation of the night sky. "It's beautiful," she said, genuinely impressed. "Thanks. But I feel like it's missing something. I want to capture the feeling of hope, the idea that even in darkness, there's always light," Maya explained, her brow furrowed in concentration. Aria pondered for a moment, then said, "What if you added some white stars? They could represent those moments of joy and clarity that break through the darkness." Maya's face lit up, a smile breaking across her features. "That's a great idea. I'll add some stars." She immediately picked up a smaller brush and began to work on the details. As Aria watched her paint, she felt a swell of admiration. Maya was truly in her element, her passion radiating from her in waves. It reminded Aria of her own drive, how writing had once filled her with the same exhilaration and purpose. After a while, Maya stepped back to evaluate her work, her expression thoughtful. "You know, I've been thinking about incorporating more themes of connection into my art. It feels important to me, especially after everything we've been through." Aria nodded, her heart swelling with emotion. "That sounds perfect. Your journey has been about connection, after all. It's about finding light in the people who uplift us." "Exactly," Maya replied, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "And you've been a huge part of that for me, Aria. I want my next exhibition to reflect the depth of our experiences together." Aria felt warmth spread through her chest at Maya's words. "I'd love to help you with that," she said, a smile breaking across her face. "We can brainstorm ideas together. This is going to be incredible." A shared dream as spring transitioned into summer, the bond between Aria and Maya blossomed. They began to share not only their individual passions but also their dreams for the future. Late-night conversations often turned into discussions about travel, adventure, and the kind of life they wanted to build together. One evening, as they lay on a blanket in a park, gazing up at the stars, Maya turned to Aria, her expression serious. "If you could go anywhere in the world, where would you want to go?" Aria pondered for a moment, her gaze still fixed on the night sky. "I think I'd love to see the northern lights. There's something magical about the idea of witnessing that kind of beauty." Maya smiled, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "How about we make that happen? Let's plan a trip to Iceland." Aria turned to face her, her heart racing. "Really? You're serious?" "Absolutely," Maya replied, her excitement palpable. "We could explore the landscapes, take photographs, and experience the culture. It would be an adventure." "I love that idea," Aria exclaimed, her spirits lifting. "We can make it a trip for both our art and my writing. I can write articles about our experiences, and you can find inspiration for new pieces." Maya's face lit up with joy. "Yes. This is going to be amazing." As they sat there under the stars, dreaming about their future adventures, Aria felt a sense of hope and possibility flooding her. It was as if they were rewriting their narratives together, crafting a story that was uniquely theirs, a story filled with love, exploration, and the courage to embrace whatever came next. Facing doubts, but despite the excitement of their plans, doubt still lurked in the back of Aria's mind. She had spent so long focused on her career that the thought of stepping into the unknown was both exhilarating and terrifying. What if she failed to balance her work with their travels? What if she couldn't find the inspiration she needed? One evening, as she sat in her apartment working on an article, those doubts began to creep in. She stared at her screen, frustration mounting as the words wouldn't come. The deadline loomed, and the pressure weighed heavily on her. Just then, her phone buzzed with a message from Maya. "Hey. Just checking in. How's the article coming along? Aria sighed, running a hand through her hair. Not great. I'm feeling stuck. I'm starting to worry about our trip to Iceland. What if I can't write while we're there? What if I can't handle the pressure? Maya's response came almost immediately. Aria, you're not going to fail. This trip is about exploring and enjoying life together. It's not just about your writing. It's about us, and about experiencing new things. I know, but what if I can't find that balance? Aria replied, her anxiety palpable. You will, Maya reassured her. You're stronger than you think. You just have to let yourself breathe, to let the experience shape you. And remember, you don't have to do this alone. I'm here with you, every step of the way. Aria felt a surge of gratitude at Maya's unwavering support. Thank you. I just need to find a way to trust myself again. And you will, Maya replied. Let's focus on enjoying the trip and the moments we create. The writing will come when it's meant to. As they talked, Aria's anxiety began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of calm. Maya's words reassured her, and she realized that she didn't have to carry the weight of their journey alone. They were partners, and together they would navigate whatever challenges lay ahead. A new chapter begins as the date of their trip approached. The excitement in the air was palpable. Aria and Maya spent their evenings researching Iceland's breathtaking landscapes and plotting their itinerary, each new discovery fueling their anticipation. On the day of their departure, Aria stood at the airport, her heart racing as she watched Maya's enthusiasm bubble over. They were finally embarking on an adventure that would allow them to explore both the world and their relationship. As the plane took off, Aria gazed out the window, watching as the city she had called home faded into the distance. With every passing cloud, she felt a sense of liberation wash over her. This was more than just a trip, it was a chance to rediscover herself and redefine her path. When they landed in Reykjavik, the cool air hit them like a wave, invigorating and refreshing. The landscape was unlike anything Aria had ever seen, rugged mountains, sprawling fields, and the promise of adventure waiting just beyond the horizon. This is it! Maya exclaimed, her eyes wide with excitement. We're finally here. Aria felt a smile break across her face, her heart swelling with happiness. I can't believe it. Let's go explore. They spent their days hiking through stunning landscapes, exploring cascading waterfalls, and marveling at the beauty of the northern lights that danced across the night sky. Each experience deepened their connection, allowing Aria to find her footing again in both her personal and professional life. In the evenings, as they sat together under the stars, Aria pulled out her notebook and began to write. Words flowed freely as she captured the magic of the moment, the exhilaration of the adventure, and the love that had blossomed between them. This is beautiful, Maya said, glancing over Aria's shoulder. You're capturing everything perfectly. Aria beamed at the compliment. Thank you. I feel inspired here, with you. It's like the world opened up for me again. Maya smiled, reaching for Aria's hand. I knew you'd find your way back. You just needed to let yourself breathe and embrace the journey. As the days turned into a week, their bond deepened. They faced challenges together, celebrated each other's victories, and discovered new layers of love and understanding. Aria began to see the beauty of balance, how work, love, and passion could intertwine seamlessly when nurtured with care. Part 9. Embracing change. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden glow over the rugged landscape of Iceland. Aria and Maya stood hand in hand on a cliff overlooking the ocean. The wind whipped through their hair, and the sound of crashing waves below filled the air. It was a moment of pure tranquility, one that encapsulated the beauty of their journey together. "I can't believe how far we've come," Aria said, squeezing Maya's hand tightly. "This trip has been everything I hoped for and more." Maya smiled, her eyes reflecting the shimmering colors of the sunset. "I knew this was what you needed. You were lost, but now you're finding your way back to yourself, and to us." Aria turned to face Maya, the warmth of her gaze sending a flutter through her heart. "I really don't think I could have done this without you. You've brought so much joy and inspiration into my life." "You brought it to me too," Maya replied softly. "We've both grown. This adventure is a new chapter for both of us." Aria took a deep breath, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. "Speaking of new chapters, have you thought more about your upcoming exhibition? I want to support you however I can." Maya's expression shifted, a hint of uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "I've been thinking about it, but I still feel nervous. What if I'm not ready? What if it's not good enough?" "Hey," Aria said, gently lifting Maya's chin so their eyes met. "You are more than ready. You've poured your heart and soul into your art. People are going to love it because it's you, real and authentic. Don't let fear hold you back." Maya nodded, taking a deep breath. "You're right. I just need to remember that this is about sharing my journey with others, not about being perfect." "Exactly," Aria affirmed, her voice steady. "Let your art speak for itself. I'll be there to cheer you on every step of the way." Maya smiled, her confidence beginning to return. "Thank you for believing in me." As they stood together, watching the sun set over the horizon, Aria felt a sense of purpose and clarity wash over her. They were both on the brink of something new, new adventures, new opportunities, and new possibilities. Homeward bound after a week filled with breathtaking sights and deep connection, it was time to head back home. The plane ride was filled with laughter and shared stories, a warm blanket of happiness enveloping them as they recounted their favorite moments. "I can't believe we actually hiked to that glacier." Maya laughed, shaking her head in disbelief. "I thought I was going to die." Aria chuckled, her heart full. "But we made it. And that view was worth every moment of panic." As the plane began its descent into their home city, Aria felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. She had enjoyed every moment in Iceland, but she also knew that reality awaited them: work, responsibilities, and the challenges that came with their individual journeys. "We need to keep this momentum going," Aria said, turning to Maya. "We can't let life get in the way of what we've built." "I agree," Maya replied, her eyes shining with determination. "We can make time for each other and for our passions. This is just the beginning." "Right," Aria said, nodding resolutely. "Let's set aside time each week for art, writing, and even just enjoying life together." Maya grinned. "Deal. We'll create our own little routine, a way to keep nurturing what we have." Reconnecting with reality back in the bustling city, life resumed its usual pace. Aria returned to her job, and Maya dove headfirst into preparing for her upcoming exhibition. The rhythm of their days fell into a comfortable routine, with evenings filled with art, laughter, and deep conversations. As the days turned into weeks, the exhibition drew closer. Maya poured her heart into her art, using the experiences from their trip to inspire her pieces. Aria, in turn, found herself writing about their adventures, channeling the emotions and insights gained from the journey. But as the date of the exhibition approached, Aria couldn't shake the feeling of anxiety creeping back in. She wanted everything to be perfect for Maya, but what if the turnout was low? What if people didn't appreciate the art? What if Maya's fears came true? One evening, as they sat on the couch surrounded by Maya's artwork, Aria felt the weight of her concerns pressing down on her. "What if the exhibition doesn't go as well as you hope?" she asked quietly. Maya looked up from where she was carefully placing a few final touches on a painting. "Aria, I can't control how people will respond. But I can control what I put into my work. That's what matters to me." "I just don't want you to be disappointed," Aria confessed, her voice filled with concern. Maya smiled gently, her eyes filled with understanding. "Disappointment is part of the process, love. It doesn't define me or my worth as an artist. What matters is that I'm sharing my truth, and that's what I'm focusing on." Aria took a deep breath, feeling comforted by Maya's words. "You're right. I need to trust you and your journey. You're an incredible artist, and you have every right to showcase your work." Maya leaned over and kissed Aria softly. "Thank you for always being my support. No matter what happens, I know I can count on you." The exhibition day, the day of the exhibition arrived, and the gallery was alive with excitement. Aria stood by Maya's side, her heart racing as guests began to trickle in. They mingled, sipping wine and discussing the artwork, and Aria felt a swell of pride at seeing Maya's pieces on display. Maya moved gracefully among the crowd, engaging with guests, sharing stories about her inspirations and the meaning behind each piece. Aria watched, her heart swelling with admiration as Maya flourished under the attention. "Look at you," Aria whispered, slipping her arm around Maya's waist as they stood together. "You're amazing out there." Maya beamed, her face lighting up. "I feel alive, Aria. This is what I've always wanted." As the night progressed, Aria felt a growing sense of joy and fulfillment. Maya's art resonated with the audience, and compliments poured in. People were captivated by the emotion and depth of her work, and it was clear that she had touched their hearts. Just as the evening was winding down, a well-known art critic approached Maya, his expression serious but intrigued. "Your work is extraordinary," he said, extending his hand. "I'm impressed by how you convey emotion through your art. Have you considered showcasing your pieces in larger galleries?" Maya's eyes widened in surprise, and she exchanged a glance with Aria, who smiled encouragingly. I haven't thought about it," Maya stammered, a mixture of excitement and nerves flooding her. "You should," the critic insisted, his voice firm. "Your talent deserves to be recognized. I'd be happy to help you make that connection." As the critic walked away, Maya turned to Aria, her eyes shining with disbelief. "Did that really just happen?" "Yes. It did." Aria cheered, throwing her arms around Maya. "You're going to go places, Maya. This is just the beginning." They hugged tightly, the joy of the moment overwhelming. As the evening came to a close, Aria felt a surge of hope for both of their futures. They were both on the cusp of something extraordinary, together. The next chapter in the weeks that followed, Maya's exhibition opened new doors for her, leading to opportunities and connections she had only dreamed of. She continued to create and share her art, and with Aria by her side, she felt supported and empowered. Aria, too, found her footing again in her writing. Inspired by Maya's journey, she explored new stories, tackling subjects that ignited her passion. She was no longer just a journalist, she was a storyteller, crafting narratives that resonated with readers. One evening, as they sat on the couch after a long day, Maya turned to Aria, a smile playing on her lips. "Can you believe how much has changed since our trip?" Aria nodded, her heart swelling with affection. "It's incredible. We've both grown so much, and it feels like we're just getting started." Maya's expression shifted, a glimmer of seriousness entering her eyes. "I know this is a busy time for both of us, but I want us to continue nurturing what we have. I don't want to lose sight of us in the midst of everything." "Me too," Aria agreed. "We can make time for each other, just like we promised. I want to build a life with you, a life filled with love, adventure, and creativity." Maya smiled, her eyes shining with warmth. "Then let's do it. Let's keep exploring, keep creating, and keep loving each other fiercely." As they leaned in for a kiss, Aria felt a sense of peace wash over her. This was home, this love, this connection, this life they were building together. Together, they were unstoppable. And together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, hand in hand. Part 10. The Leap of Faith. As summer rolled into full swing, Aria and Maya's lives continued to flourish. With Maya's newfound success and Aria's renewed passion for storytelling, they became a powerful duo, supporting each other's dreams while also nurturing their relationship. The warmth of the sun mirrored the warmth in their hearts, and together, they embraced the possibilities that lay ahead. One afternoon, they sat in a sun-drenched park, sharing a picnic lunch of sandwiches and fresh fruit. The laughter of children playing nearby and the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze provided a perfect backdrop for their leisurely afternoon. "I've been thinking," Maya said, taking a sip from her water bottle and glancing at Aria, who was lazily lying back on the grass. "About what?" Aria replied, propping herself up on her elbows, curiosity piqued. Maya hesitated, her gaze drifting toward the sky. "About us, about the future. I want to keep pursuing my art, but I also want to share experiences with you. We talked about traveling, and I think it's time we really do it." Aria's heart raced at the suggestion. "Are you serious? You want to travel together?" "Yes. I want to see the world through your eyes," Maya exclaimed, her excitement infectious. "I want to paint in different places, experience different cultures, and write stories about our adventures." Aria smiled, the idea igniting a spark of enthusiasm within her. "That sounds incredible. Where do you want to go first?" Maya grinned, her eyes lighting up. "How about we start with Italy? The landscapes, the art, the food, it's all so vibrant and beautiful." "I love it," Aria replied, feeling a rush of adrenaline at the thought of exploring a new country together. "We can visit Florence and soak in all the art and history, and then maybe head to the Amalfi Coast for some sun and relaxation." "Yes. And we can document everything, your writing, my paintings." "It will be our project," Maya suggested, her passion bubbling over. Aria nodded, her heart swelling with excitement at the thought of their adventures. "Let's make it happen." The preparation over the next few weeks, they immersed themselves in planning their trip. They researched destinations, gathered travel tips, and began creating itineraries filled with art galleries, historic landmarks, and culinary experiences. Aria's excitement was palpable as she pored over travel blogs and articles, imagining all the stories she would write. Maya, meanwhile, was sketching out ideas for new pieces inspired by the places they planned to visit. One evening, as they sat at Maya's kitchen table surrounded by travel brochures, Aria leaned back in her chair, her expression serious. "You know, I've been thinking about something else too." Maya looked up, her brow furrowing slightly. "What's on your mind?" "I want to write an article about our journey, our experiences as artists and partners traveling together. I think it could resonate with others who are trying to find that balance in their lives, just like we have," Aria explained. Maya's eyes lit up. "That's a brilliant idea. It'll be a wonderful way to document our journey while also inspiring others to pursue their passions and embrace love. I just want to make sure it's authentic and captures what we're going through," Aria added, her voice thoughtful. "I want to share the ups and downs, the challenges and triumphs. I think that's what makes your writing so special, Aria." "You always write from the heart," Maya encouraged, her tone filled with admiration. Aria felt a surge of gratitude for Maya's unwavering support. "Thank you. I want to make this a beautiful journey for both of us." The adventure begins as the day of their departure approached. Excitement filled the air. The night before they were set to leave, Aria lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing with thoughts of their upcoming adventure. What if something went wrong? What if they faced challenges they couldn't overcome? But just as quickly as those doubts surfaced, she reminded herself of the journey they had already undertaken together. They had faced fears, embraced change, and emerged stronger than ever. The following morning, Aria and Maya arrived at the airport, their hearts racing with anticipation. They checked in their bags and made their way to the gate, each step filled with excitement. As they boarded the plane, Aria couldn't help but steal glances at Maya, who was practically buzzing with energy. The thrill of exploration and the unknown were written all over her face, and Aria felt a surge of happiness. They settled into their seats, and as the plane took off, Aria looked out the window, watching the familiar cityscape fade away. With every mile they traveled, she felt a sense of liberation wash over her. This was a new beginning, a chance to explore not only the world but also the depths of their relationship. Arriving in Italy was like stepping into a dream. The warm sun kissed their skin as they stepped off the plane, and the vibrant energy of the city enveloped them. The aroma of freshly baked bread and the sound of laughter filled the air as they made their way to their hotel. Their days were filled with exploration. They wandered through the cobblestone streets of Florence, marveling at the stunning architecture and rich history. Aria immersed herself in the stories of the places they visited, jotting down ideas for articles as Maya sketched the scenery around her. In the evenings, they indulged in delicious Italian cuisine, sharing laughter over plates of pasta and glasses of wine. Each moment felt magical, filled with love and adventure. One evening, as they stood on the banks of the Arno River, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and orange, Maya turned to Aria, her eyes sparkling. "Can you believe we're really here?" "No, it feels surreal," Aria replied, her heart full. "This is everything I've ever wanted." Maya stepped closer, her expression turning serious. "I want to remember this moment. Let's take a picture." Aria smiled as Maya pulled out her camera and snapped a photo, capturing the essence of their adventure. As they posed, Aria felt a sense of contentment wash over her. "We're living our dreams," she said softly. "Yes, we are," Maya agreed, leaning in to kiss Aria gently. "And I want to keep doing this. I want to keep exploring, creating, and building a life together." Aria's heart swelled with love as she wrapped her arms around Maya. "I feel the same way. We're just getting started." The turning point as their trip progressed, they faced unexpected challenges, missed train connections, language barriers, and the occasional disagreement about their itinerary. But each obstacle was met with laughter and determination, reinforcing their bond as partners. One afternoon, while visiting a renowned art museum, Aria noticed Maya standing in front of a beautiful painting, her expression one of awe. Aria approached quietly, admiring the artwork alongside her. "What do you see?" Aria asked, intrigued by the intensity of Maya's gaze. "It's like the artist captured a moment in time," Maya said softly. "You can feel the emotion, the passion. It reminds me of what we talked about, how art conveys feelings that words sometimes can't." Aria nodded, her heart swelling with pride. "You have that ability too, you know. You capture emotions through your art. It's a gift." Maya turned to Aria, her eyes shimmering. "Thank you. That means a lot coming from you." But as the days turned into weeks, Aria sensed a shift within herself. The freedom and creativity she had felt while writing began to clash with the expectations she placed upon herself. As they prepared for the exhibition back home, the pressure began to mount. One evening, as they sat in their hotel room surrounded by sketches and notes, Aria felt the weight of her anxieties crushing her. "What if I can't write about our experiences? What if I fail to capture everything I want to say?" Maya looked up, concern etched on her face. "You won't fail, Aria. You have an incredible talent, and you're doing this for you, not for anyone else. Remember to enjoy the process." Aria shook her head, frustration bubbling within her. "But what if I don't do it justice? What if I let you down?" Maya stood up, moving closer to Aria. "You could never let me down. We're in this together, and whatever you write will be true to your experience. Just trust yourself." Taking a deep breath, Aria nodded, trying to let go of her fears. "You're right. I need to embrace this journey, not just the destination." As the exhibition day approached, Aria found herself filled with a mix of excitement and anxiety. The pressure of showcasing her writing alongside Maya's art felt daunting, and she struggled to shake off the lingering doubts. On the day of the exhibition, the gallery was alive with energy. Guests mingled, admiring Maya's artwork while Aria showcased her written pieces that captured the essence of their journey. As people began to read Aria's stories, she watched from a distance, her heart racing. What if they didn't connect with her words? What if they saw her differently? But as guests began to engage with the pieces, sharing laughter and stories inspired by her writing, Aria felt the tension begin to ease. She caught sight of Maya mingling with attendees, her eyes shining with pride as she spoke about her art. At that moment, Aria realized the power of vulnerability. She had poured her heart into her work, and regardless of the outcome, she had stayed true to herself. When the evening drew to a close, Maya found Aria standing in a quiet corner of the gallery, her heart full as she watched the joy her work brought to others. "You did it," Maya said softly, her voice filled with warmth. "You really did it." "I can't believe it," Aria replied, tears of joy brimming in her eyes. "This was everything I hoped for. Thank you for believing in me." Maya took Aria's hands in her own, her gaze steady and filled with love. "And thank you for sharing your journey with me. This is just the beginning of many more adventures to come." As they stood together, the gallery alive with the remnants of their shared experiences, Aria felt a sense of clarity wash over her. They had built something beautiful together, a partnership grounded in love, trust, and creativity. The future awaits in the weeks following the exhibition. Aria and Maya continued to grow both individually and as a couple. Their relationship thrived as they embraced the challenges that came with pursuing their passions. Each day felt like a new adventure, and they learned to cherish the small moments, cooking dinner together, late-night conversations, and lazy Sundays spent reading and painting. One evening, as they lay in bed, Maya turned to Aria, her expression thoughtful. "What do you think is next for us?" Aria smiled, tracing patterns on Maya's arm. "I think we continue to explore, both the world and ourselves. I want to keep traveling, creating, and sharing our stories with others." "I love that," Maya replied, her eyes sparkling. "And I want to keep pushing myself as an artist, to see where my creativity takes me." As Aria nestled closer to Maya, she felt a sense of peace settle over her. They had faced fears, embraced change, and built a life that reflected their passions. With each passing day, they were discovering more about themselves and each other. In that moment, Aria knew they were on the right path. Together, they would continue to inspire one another, ace challenges head-on, and build a future filled with love, adventure, and the beauty of connection. To be continued. The journey was far from over. Together, they would navigate the complexities of life, love, and art, continuing to write their story one day at a time, embracing whatever challenges and joys lay ahead.